Hey everybody, and welcome to Gamenightathon, the July edition. So this is the second year of Gamenightathon. Just like last year, I am planning to do two editions, so the July edition and then the December edition. The December edition will be lottery based again, and for an extra chance at the lottery, you need to be the winner of Gamenightathon, the July edition. I will be choosing two winners for Gamenightathon this year. Depending on the score, if there's equals, there will be even more winners, but there will be the overall winner of having the most amount of points, and there will be a winner who has the most amount of average points per book. So if you are somebody who reads less, don't be disencouraged by the size of the board. You can definitely still be a winner by just being like the best at your level of page reading, you know. So the July edition of Gamenightathon is based on a game called Encore, or Keer om Keer in Dutch. This I don't think is very well known of a game, but I really enjoyed this one a whole lot, and this is the game that kind of made me think, ooh, I can really make a bookish game out of this one. The edition this year is going to be slightly different from last year, so forget some of those rules from last year. I'm going to be changing things around a little bit. So looking at the board, we can see that the board now consists of only three colors. So there is black, white and yellow, meaning that there are less prompts this time around. And this is also going to be true in the sense that there aren't 10 sets of prompts as there were last year. There are only going to be 6 sets of prompts this year. So less prompts. I did choose to keep them rather wide again, as I did last year. Some of them are a little bit more like niche, and then there is one game element that I'll explain later in the video that will have very concise, like very precise prompts to it. So the aim of the game is going to be to try and cross off as many spaces as possible. Each space on this board represents 100 pages read, meaning that if you read a book that is 99 pages, sorry, it cannot count for this readathon. It needs to be over 100 at the very least in order for you to be able to cross off a single space. There are different bonuses to be earned as well throughout the readathon, which I will explain in a later section of this video. So if you are somebody who definitely won't be finishing this board, which I definitely won't be, then strategy needs to come into play. Now the grid this year consists of 4 rows and 15 columns, leading to a grid of 80 spaces, so 8,000 pages at the very least are needed in order for you to be able to complete the entire board. In reality, it's going to be more than 8,000 unless you are able to like find books that are like exactly, you know, 400 pages and not a page extra. In reality, you're probably going to be reading more in order to get to the in order to cross off the entire grid, but that is what would be the minimum required for finishing this readathon. I don't think a lot of people will be doing that, but I'm sure some people will prove me wrong. So the grid is actually smaller than last year, but because every space is 100 pages long, it means that you need more pages this year to be able to finish off the entire board. In this edition, it is also much more important for you to be economical in your choices. So don't choose books that are much bigger than the page count required, because that will incur negative points. This grid consists of 80 spaces, but as you will see, these spaces are also linked to one another in kind of groups of 1 to 6 spaces. These groups I will refer to as clusters throughout the video and in the guide. Basically, your sort of like ideal goal is going to be that with each book you're going to try and fill an entire cluster. You are allowed to do so with multiple books. You are allowed to use 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books in order to fill up one particular cluster, but the easiest way and the most sort of like economical way to do so will be with a single book trying to cross off an entire cluster in one go. What is not allowed, however, is, for example, if you are trying to fill up a cluster of 3 spaces and you're reading a book of 450 pages, you in principle could cross off 4 spaces, but because your cluster is just 3 spaces big, you are not allowed to use that 4th space. You cannot cross over into another cluster. You have to stick to one specific cluster with every single book that you read. So let's start out. The first book that you're going to read, you are starting off in column A, and you have the choice of whichever space in column A that you want to be fulfilling. So you have the choice of all 3 colors of prompts. However, this year we are playing things a little bit different. This year you are going to be rolling a die in order to decide which prompts you get to choose between. So if you roll a die and it lands on 3, you will go to the prompt visual and you will look at row 3 and look at the 3 prompts that are there for the black, yellow and white color, and kind of determine based on there which prompt works best to you, which prompt and page count works best for the clusters that are available to you at that point in time. After your first book, for every single book that you read from that point onwards, you are always going to try and connect your cluster to one that has previously been crossed off. Basically meaning that the very first space that you cross off with your first 100 pages will always have to be horizontally or vertically linked to a previously crossed off space. It does not matter whether you've previously crossed off that space like just now with your previous read or like 6 books ago. As long as at some point throughout the month you have crossed off a space that is horizontally or vertically linked to the one that you want to cross off now, then you can go ahead with that. And then with the next 100 pages in that same book, you can kind of go to another one that is horizontally or vertically linked to the one that you've just crossed off. So every space that you cross off, just always at every point throughout the month, needs to be horizontally or vertically linked to a previously crossed off one, whether that is in the same turn or in previous turns. And that is how you're going to be making your way through the board, trying to cross off as many clusters as possible. Now, there are multiple ways in which you can earn bonus points, and those will become important, especially for us readers who are not reading like 8,000 pages. I mean, it would be an extremely good month for me if I get to 4,000 pages, let me say it like that. So I am like going to be at the most completing like half of this board and probably not even. So I need strategy in order to find a way to get the most out of this reading month. For every single space that you cross off, you get 1 point. So with every book that you read, you can get a few points already just by the amount of spaces that you are able to cross off with them. But that is most likely not going to be enough, because there are always going to be those fast readers who are crossing off more and more spaces compared to you. So you are going to be using strategy to try and cross off as many spaces as possible, but to also be able to gain as much bonus with the spaces that you cross off as possible. So let's move over to the ways in which you can earn bonus points. So bonus points, first of all, the easiest bonus points, I guess, is the one of matching your cover to the color of the prompt of the cluster. So if you are trying to fill a black cluster, you need a book cover that is 50% or more black. Doesn't necessarily need to be the edition that you are reading specifically. If there is an edition out there that complies with this rule, then you can count it. The bonus that you get for matching your cover to the color is 1 point. So an extra point if you are able to do this. Another way to earn a bonus is by crossing off every space in a single column. So the columns are shorter this year. There are only 4 spaces in each column, so it's easier to cross off a column, but you will also see that there are different values to the column. So the amount of bonus points that you get for crossing off every space in a column is mentioned in the bar underneath the grid. And so this goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until the end of the board. Meaning that strategically speaking, if you know that you are not going to be able to cross off the entire board, one way to kind of rack up more bonus points is kind of horizontally make your way to those particular columns that are worth more and trying to complete those columns to get a higher bonus, rather than trying to fill up the entire grid as far as possible, because those first few columns aren't worth as much, and so it might not be as valuable for you to put your efforts into completing those particular columns compared to the other columns within the board. Another way to earn a bonus, but this will be more for the people who like are either completing the board or are very close to completing the board, and that is to cross off every single space in one of the colors. So if you're able to cross off every single black space on the board, that means you get a 5-point bonus. This bonus is the same for every color, so if you complete the entire board, you get a 15-point bonus for that because of having completed all 3 colors. I tried to keep this bonus, I kept this bonus somewhat low compared to the column bonus, just because of the fact that it mainly is an achievement that will be made by people who read a ton. People who don't read that much are just not going to be able to do so, so I didn't want to disadvantage them too much neither. So those are the ways to earn positive points, but there are also some things that can negatively impact you. So on the board there are 3 stars. Those stars are basically going to be, if you don't cross them off, each star is going to result in a minus 10-point deduction. So if you cross off not a single star in the course of the readathon, these are minus 30 points, which is a lot. So I don't know whether I'm going to regret this myself, but I made the penalty for the stars bigger than it was last year. Last year there were more stars, but each star was worth way less in penalty points. This year there are less stars, but they are worth more in penalty points, meaning we will all be starting with negative balances, and it might take us longer to get out of there. So it will be important to cross off these stars, because just by crossing off a star, you already like reduce your backlog by 10 points. So crossing off a star can have a huge impact on your score. For that reason also the 3rd star is like not all the way at the back of the board, because then like less people will be able to reach it. Now, unfortunately, you cannot just cross off a star. A star needs to fulfill multiple requirements. First up, you need to roll the dice as you would for any other roll. You need to fit the prompt that is linked to the color of that cluster. Let's say you want to cross off that star that is in column C. You need to have rolled the dice. Let's say 5 is the number you land on. So the number 5 black prompt, which I don't have with me at this point in time, red cover. So you need to, so in that case, you need to have a book with a red cover. And you will have to fulfill a start prompt for it. Now, start prompts are things that are not given in advance. They will be revealed throughout the month. I don't even know the start prompts at this point in time. I also still need to make the visual for it. I will basically be making a roulette board with prompts that my subscribers have given me over on Discord that are more specific than the other prompts that we have available to us at this point in time. And you need to fulfill both the red cover prompt and that prompt in order for you to be able to cross off that space. So you can still try and cross off the cluster without that specific star prompt, but just that one space that contains the star you are not allowed to cross off unless it also matches a star prompt. The first star prompt I will drop on the 1st of July, so from that point in time onwards, for the remainder of the month you have that prompt available to you to cross off a star. Around day 10 I will drop prompt number 2, and around day 20 I will drop prompt number 3. Throughout the month, from the moment in which they're dropped, you are able to use these prompts, but each star prompt can only be used once. So in order to cross off all 3 of the star prompts, you need to use all of the 3 different prompts that will be dropped throughout the month. So yeah, that is a huge penalty that you can incur, and potentially even a bigger penalty, we'll have to see how this plays out, is additional pages read. So last year I did take note of additional pages read, but it didn't really result in any penalties. It was just sort of like an honorary mention if you were able to like not read too many extra pages, but this year it does come into play. So for every 50 pages that you read additionally to the amount of pages that you need, you will incur a 1 point deduction. And this is cumulative, meaning for your first book you read a book that is 140 pages long. You've read 40 extra pages. It's not a deduction because it is still under 50. However, if for your second book you then read a book that is 265 pages long, in total you have read 105 pages too much, meaning that you have incurred 2 deduction points so far. So this is basically a calculation you will mainly do towards the end of the month, but it will also in the spreadsheet be calculating it the entire time. So yeah, be wise in those choices. Don't read extra pages. They are not worth anything and they are actually working against you this time around. So those are all of the positive and negative elements that come into play when it comes to this readathon. Meaning that at the end of the month, the way that the score is calculated is you take the total of the amount of spaces that you were able to fulfill. You add up all of the bonuses that you got for crossing off columns. You add the bonus you got for crossing off every space in a single color. You add the amount of books that you read for which the cover color matched the color of your prompts. In the visual there is no maximum there. You will see all the rest have a maximum, that one doesn't, because in principle the maximum is 80. If for every single space you read a different book and every one of those you match to the cover, then you can get to an 80-point bonus. So maybe also a strategy that you can try to use. And then that is all of your positive accumulations. From that you will subtract the amount of stars that you haven't been able to cross off, and then you will subtract the following calculation. The amount of pages that you have read minus the minimum amount of pages that you needed in order to fulfill those spaces. So amount of spaces times 100. And from that you will divide by 50, and that you can round down. So if you end up with 29.6, then that is just 29 negative points, not 30. So yeah, I know that that is a handful. I've explained a lot and I hope I've been clear about it, but there is a guide that I will have available on my Google Drive that also includes an example run of the first sort of like 4 books that you might read, and that hopefully will make things much clearer if this is your first time taking part in this game, in this readathon. For people who took part in it last year, the gameplay will probably be more understandable this time around because they've already played it once. But so if you are new to the readathon, definitely go and check out that guide as well, because at the end of the guide there is an example of how to play the readathon with some examples that can hopefully clarify the gameplay to you. I will have a book submitting form in the description down below. It will also be in the Google Drive, and then there is a spreadsheet that will also be included in the description of this video and in the Google Drive. You will have the possibility to look at the spreadsheet. Normally all pages will be hidden except for the summary page, and as soon as you start logging books, then you will be appearing in that summary page. But it is possible that I will have to kind of drag some of the formulas down in order for your points to be correctly calculated the first time around. But I will be looking at the spreadsheet very regularly throughout the month, so normally it should, like within a day at least, you should be seeing the correct score registered next to your name. And so you can kind of see like how you're faring compared to the others. However, it will only show you like the total amount of points. As I indicated, I believe at the beginning, because this is like my third attempt at filming this, I believe I indicated in the beginning of this video that there are going to be 2 ways of winning this time around. Either you have the overall highest score, or you have the highest score divided by the amount of books that you read. Meaning that you have gathered the most, relatively speaking, the most points. So somebody who reads just one book could potentially actually win. Maybe it's even easier to win with just one book, which also doesn't seem like the point, but hey. So that is going to be the gameplay. I will now go over the prompts. If you are clicking off here, then good luck in Gamenightathon. I hope to see you there throughout the month, either in Discord or just popping up in the spreadsheet. And yeah, I hope to have as much fun with it as I had last year. I don't know whether I'm going to do the same as last year, where I let you guys decide my reads. Maybe not. So prompts, let's go over them. Let's go through color by color. So for the black prompts, the first prompt is BIPOC representation. So this either means a BIPOC author or a prominent character that is representative of, you know, Black, Indigenous, people of color, person of color. And prominent character meaning like protagonist, antagonist, or one of the like major side characters, meaning like a best friend or something like that, you know, not a neighbor that we see like 6 times in the book or something like that. Somebody who has quite some page representation in the book. Second prompt, animals. So either mythical creatures or just your plain old dog, cat, cow, whatever creature exists within our world need to be part of this plot, need to be part of the character list, you know, need to be playing somewhat of an important role within this book. Third prompt is outside of your comfort zone, so a book that for whichever reason makes you hesitate, either because of its page length or because it's a genre that you haven't had much success with, or it's an author that you haven't tried from before and you're kind of hesitating whether this one will be for you. You've heard some negative things about a book. All of those are reasons to stay outside of your comfort zone. Fourth prompt is a book of over 300 pages, so best not to be combined with a 2 space cluster, for example, because then you will be counting more than 100 additional pages. The fifth prompt is a book with a red cover. Just like the cover match bonus, this needs to be more than half of the color, needs to be the color red. And then the sixth prompt is a favorite author. So an author that you really enjoy reading from. Doesn't need to be your favorite author of all time, just somebody you really like reading from. For the yellow prompts, prompt number 1 is criminals. So any type of criminal element, so either you're following like a thief, for example, but it can also be like a detective story in which you're trying to uncover the identity of the murderer. This is also enough to fit this prompt. Second prompt, randomize. So you use whichever method of randomization, have your pets choose your books, do a poll online, use a random number generator, use a color wheel, any type of way in which you can randomize the selection works. Third prompt, a 5-star prediction. So a book that you expect to absolutely blow you away and to become a favorite. Sixth prompt is disability. Just with BIPOC representation, this needs to be a prominent character or the author needs to have a disability. Mental health representation will be counted as well here. Fifth prompt, a new to you author, so somebody you haven't read from before. Sixth prompt, non-fiction. First prompt for the white color is mood read. Whatever book you want, read it. Second prompt, a under 300 page book, so you can use it in a cluster that is 3 spaces or more. However, you will then need another book to complete the cluster because you won't be able to complete the cluster with this page count. Third prompt is genre blend, so a book that has enough prominent elements of more than one genre. For example, a fantasy romance or a sci-fi thriller. Any type of book where it is like, you can see how it's part of one genre, but you feel like there are also a lot of elements that make you think of another genre, then you can count this. The fourth prompt, more than 3 colors on the cover, which means that there is a big likelihood that you won't be able to match your cover color to the prompt color in that case. Fifth prompt, a tavern or bar setting, basically any type of setting that has to do with food or drinks that plays a prominent role, or that there is a prominent scene within the book taking place there. So like if there is just like a page in which they mention a bar, no, then this doesn't count. But if there is like, I don't know, a date taking place in a restaurant within the page length of the book, then definitely that can count. Or if it is somebody who is running an establishment that like that, then it definitely counts, of course. And then the final prompt is LGBTQIA+ representation, as was the case with BIPOC and disability. Either your author is an LGBTQIA+ author, or your prominent characters have that representation within them. So these are the prompts. That was the gameplay. Good luck to all. Definitely let me know if you have any questions. I will definitely try to answer them. I will try to answer them in the comments of this video, but you can also ask them over on Discord, for example, where I will also be answering questions. And yeah, good luck to you guys. You don't have to sign up this time around. You just have to start logging once the month of July starts. Everything that is logged prior to the month of July, I will be removing. And probably one element that I should have explained earlier on in the video as well is if you have previously started a book in the month of June, you can still use that in the month of July, but you can only count the pages that you have read in the month of July. So if you were already 200 pages into an 800 page book, you can count the remaining 600 or like a little bit under 600 depending on where you landed off for July. So in your logging, you will just log the amount of pages that you read in July itself. And the same goes for books that you are unable to finish within the month of July. Just log the amount of pages that you have been able to read in July compared to the ones that then will move over into August. They don't count anymore. So yeah, that was everything that I needed to say, I hope. And so with that, I hope that this has been a clear description this time around, but I'm sure many people will once again tell me that I wasn't clear, and I'm gonna be like, how could I have made this clearer? So yeah, it will become clear throughout the gameplay, and it will be clear throughout the guide, I hope. So yeah, with that, I'm going to end this video. I am going to hopefully still be making videos throughout the remainder of June, maybe into July, that will give you some books that you can easily use for the color match. So books that are prominently black, which also fit some of those prompts for the black column, and the same for yellow and white. But so yeah, with that, I'm going to end this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you guys for the next one. Bye!